Today's video is on the top 10 ideas that white people need to rethink. It seems like Black women are always just angry, pissed off at something. Think of all they have to deal with. They have to deal with the sexism that other white women might have to deal with, but they also have to endure systemic racism. And on top of that, the minute they dare to have a normal emotional response and express themselves about the way they're being treated, they're labeled and dismissed as the angry Black woman. Black people are just lazy and they want to live off the system. Numbers-wise, there are more white people who are on welfare than Black people. Black people make up 13% of the population. Because of systemic racism in America today, a higher percentage of Black people compared to the population need welfare to tide them over during hard economic times. Black people need to stop talking about racism all the time. They're not the only ones with problems. We've been ignoring and not talking about racism for centuries here in the United States, and the statistics show we are overwhelmingly unjust to Black people. Privilege doesn't mean you don't have problems. It doesn't mean you're rich, and it doesn't mean you don't work hard for everything you do. If you're white, you may have a lot of problems due to our society, but the color of your skin won't be one of them holding you back. Even the poorest white folks have some degree of privilege, and even the wealthiest Black people are discriminated against due to the color of their skin. Black people just don't feel pain the way white people do. This type of thinking is categorically false, and it's the cause of a number of dangerous discriminatory behaviors that harm Black people. Studies overwhelmingly show that doctors and nurses ignore the pain or give less pain medication to Black and brown patients compared to when they treat white patients with the same medical condition. Black people face so many more hardships than white people ever did. They're better equipped to handle it. This is simply another rationalization to uphold the status quo. Research done on what's called the racial empathy gap show that white people tend to have a failure to empathize with people who are non-white. An example is when a white person feels less empathy for a Black mother whose child has just been murdered than they do for a white one. Black people just resent me because I'm white. My videos are made for white people, but from what I've learned from my Black friends and colleagues, they're not trying to get you to have less. They just want to simply have equity and justice. They want a fair chance, just like anyone else. Reverse racism is huge. White people are getting the short end of the stick every time now. This belief is not upheld by any academic research in the United States, and this ideology allows us, the white people, to make it all about us and perpetuate racial discrimination, making us the victims. There's no such thing as reverse racism. Black and brown people, by definition, cannot be racist. It doesn't mean they can't be bigoted and hateful and hold strong, very rude beliefs about white people, which manifest in their personal interactions with them, but we just don't call it racism. The word racism is reserved for a system that has the ability and the power to do widespread, impacting harm and damage. If I'm white and I know about systemic racism, how could I be racist? Acknowledging systemic racism is a great start, but research has pinpointed the best way to learn empathy for others is to have meaningful and close relationships with people who don't look like you. I'm sorry, I have bad thoughts about some of the different races. I guess that makes me a bad person. According to research, having guilt about racist thoughts or behaviors does nothing to help. This results in a discussion about racism becoming all about our white feelings. Instead of feeling guilt, a more productive ideology is to understand and research and study the system that we've all been born into. Every one of us, whether we're white, brown, Black, of mixed heritage, indigenous, etc., has been indoctrinated to one point or another. If you're born in the United States, there's no way out of it. So stop blaming yourself and start finding ways to learn and educate yourself. Didn't a study once show that Black children act out in school more because they don't have a father in the home? The truth is, this belief came from a very flawed study because it made an assumption without any proof that if Black parents weren't married, that dads didn't spend time with their children. A study done by our own CDC in 2013 reported that Black fathers are actually more likely than white fathers to spend quality time with their children. The truth is that racism is actually one of the causes of Black fathers not being in the household. This is true because of mass incarceration, over-policing, disparate health outcomes, and a lot of other factors. If you believe it's way past time for white America to take racial responsibility and educate ourselves so we can educate other white people, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel or any other platform that I'm on.